You destroy people's countries while your country continues to bask in wealth and relative security, and you expect them to stay there. Then you start complaining that these people are coming to your countries. The easiest and cheapest way to solve the migrant crisis: leave these countries alone.
I'll tell you what the problem is, that all over the world, people have got these things and they see the standards of living we enjoy in this country. They are young, ambitious, and they want to share in the action. And until we actually come to some sort of rational European policy, we will be faced with this enormous number of people crossing into Europe from the Mediterranean, the Adriatic, and the Turkish border.
Wow. That was a former Tory deputy prime minister sounding like a communist, based on the Overton window we have nowadays on immigration matters. I came across that video when I was on my way home from work yesterday. As you can see, still dressed in my work best. And I couldn't quite believe it, because how often have you heard that conversation or that kind of line of thinking or that kind of challenge being made to the reforms, the right-wing Labour MPs, the Conservative MPs who complain about the numbers you can see behind me on the channel crossings? Every day, all you hear about, especially since reform have been voted to more or less unofficial opposition party status, is how the immigration numbers are so high. We have so many channel crossings. What are we going to do to stop these people coming into our country? Thinking of illegal plans that violate, refugee conventions going back 70, 80 years, thinking of leaving the European Court of Human Rights, or to try and basically find ways to remove them more quickly, basically. And a lot of people on the left, or just general compassionate people, make the point that a lot of these people are fleeing desperate situations and we should welcome them because we're a nation of immigrants and we have Muslims and black people and this, that, and the other. All very nice points. But unfortunately, when it comes to politics, messaging is quite important. And the kind of messaging, the accurate messaging that I saw in that video was something that, if I was sitting down, I might have fallen off my chair. Because he's making the obvious point that those people in those countries, in fact, they even make the kind of, it's not racist, I guess what you want to say, kind of point. The reform MPs make the point that, a lot of these people are not vulnerable people. They're young, healthy men, agile, strong men who are coming to take advantage of our, relaxed refugee policy. And he's making an obvious point that they see our countries flourishing and they want to enjoy in that flourishment. But it goes further than that. The point he didn't quite make, he's talking about let's try and, I guess, uplift those countries, improve them. And he's also making a point that this is a European problem and not just a UK problem, because those people don't come from the countries they come from, which I'm going to get to in a minute, and just end up here by, crossing the seas. They go through Europe. But why exactly would these people be going through Europe? You can see the numbers behind me. That's from the BBC on the channel crossings in 2024 and how many of them, the breakdown by nationality. Look at some of the countries. I should have done a calculation before I started the video. I think I will try and add a note. If you're a smart maths whiz, you can do the rough calculation of the percentages very quickly. Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Iran, those 4 countries. Look at the kind of countries people are coming from. What do those countries have in common in different ways? If you know a bit of foreign policy or you know a bit of politics, if you're watching the Gen Z audience, you might actually not know this, but a lot of these countries are countries that the UK has a personal hand in destroying. Afghanistan, we know of the Afghan invasion in 2003, the illegal war of Iraq and Afghanistan that Tony Blair helped us kind of follow the US into after the 9/11 attacks on false premises about weapons of mass destruction. Then it turned into building a democracy. Then it turned into God knows what. Now the country is run by people we consider to be terrorists, and that's the best we could do after 20-something years of trying to help them build their country. Does anyone really think if we hadn't destroyed that country, we'd be seeing Afghan people showing up here in what they consider to be record numbers? Let's go to Iraq. Again, we don't even need to talk about Iraq and Saddam Hussein. The sanctions that were on Iraq well beforehand that killed hundreds of thousands of children through malnutrition. And you have people like the US Secretary of State Madeleine Albright saying, yeah, it was worth it.
We have heard that 500,000 children have died. I mean, that's more children than died in Hiroshima. And you know, is the price worth it?
I think this is a very hard choice, but we think the price is worth it.
If you're starving people to death, they have two options. They can starve to death, or they can leave and try and find some food. If you're a human being, what would you do? Let's go to Iran. Iran is currently being sanctioned by the US. I guess the UK has a more junior role to play in all these matters, but, you know, still a role nonetheless. Because Israel has a kind of pathological, you know, obsession with Iran and wants to see Iran defanged and not have a nuclear weapon and all that, this kind of stuff. Basically, Israel wants an enemy in the region because Iran and Israel, they don't even share a border. They're not even close. Iran wants nothing to do with Israel, but Israel has to always have an enemy, especially Netanyahu, because this is how he justifies the kind of madness he does. And so Iran has been on, you know, in the sights and the crosshairs of the US empire for a long time. The sanctions on Iran to try and force them to not have a nuclear weapon, even though there wasn't interest in a nuclear weapon. The only reason they want a nuclear weapon is because they don't want America to destroy their country. And the UK, you know, again, in junior partner role to do the same. They've sanctioned the country to hell. They can't get medicine. They can't get food. The economy is in tatters. So people leave. And where do they come? Where should they come? The moral thing for them to do, the moral obligation, is you that you're destroying their country, is for them to come to you. In that same article, he mentioned how the numbers of people coming from Syria rose dramatically after the Syrian war began. I should probably do a separate video on Syria because, you know, now we have, I think I've done videos on, you know, the fact that we have an actual literal terrorists running the country now with our support, by the way. These are the kind of people that destroyed Syria and made it basically uninhabitable. I remember, if you guys remember the videos from, I think it was around what year was that? I don't know, early 2010s, so maybe towards the late 2010s, when we had that massive amount of people crossing into Germany and over 1 million people coming from Syria. Why did they leave? Because we destroyed their country. This is the pattern time and time again. You destroy people's countries while your country continues to bask in wealth and relative security, and you expect them to stay there. Then you start complaining that these people are coming to your countries. The easiest and cheapest way to solve the migrant crisis, leave these countries alone. Just leave them be. You don't have to get involved and support some jihadi, extreme, right-wing people, whether it be Netanyahu in Israel or actual, literal, you know, jihadi Islamic fundamentalists in ISIS and Al-Qaeda and Al-Nusra and Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. All these people to destroy a country. What's the civilian population going to do? Right now, what we're doing to the Palestinian population, for example, imagine in 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years, we start to see an exodus, which Israel wants, by the way. Israel wants the Palestinian people to be removed. I wish I could use a worse word than that. Removed makes it sound very kind. From Gaza. If those people start to leave and come and show up on the shores of our country, don't we have a moral obligation to take them in, given that we participated and helped to destroy their homeland? Why are we doing that? The cheapest thing for us to do is leave them alone, but we won't do this. And this happens time and time again. So again, going back to the video, I was extremely shocked that this is the point that people on the left should be making. It cost us £0 to leave these people the hell alone. It doesn't cost us anything. All these Rwanda plans and, you know, illegal things to do, try and circumvent EU law about refugees. You know, there should be a new law that says if you help destroy the country, you should be primarily the one taking most of the refugees. We know a lot of Syrian refugees are going to the neighboring countries like Turkey, who also has a hand in destroying Syria, to be fair, so you know, they deserve what's coming to them. But it's a very, very simple thing, and I wish more people would start to make this point. You know, when we talk about, you know, you hear people like Reform. If Reform have a policy on an agenda of we're going to remove everyone from day one, what's their policy on not being involved in wars of regime change and, you know, nation building and destroying other people's countries such that those people have to leave their countries and come to us? No one's going to answer that question. So, you know, hopefully they start to watch this Heseltine video and start, you know, borrowing a page from his book. But I think I'll do a separate video on the US because we have a very similar thing going on in the US where Trump came in, you know, even when he first ran about, you know, we're going to remove all the immigrants. Just a quick teaser for that video. It's no surprise all the countries the immigrants are coming from are countries that the US has a very tangible hand in destroying and currently destroying. Again, why would they not come to your country? But maybe I'll do a US for a separate video. This video is getting quite long. Hope you found that informative. And again, I know a lot of us, let's be honest, in the African community have right-wing parents. So do send them this video to explain to them that the reason why, you know, it's understandable that they might not want immigration, but you know, they should probably be telling their MPs to stop voting for destroying other people's homes so they don't have to leave their homes and come to ours. Anyway, we found that informative. If you're a Reform voter or, you know, right-wing, Tory, whichever one, this is something that, again, everyone should have in their agenda. You know, it's understandable, if you want to say that, to be concerned about immigration and, you know, want to see some reforms and stuff like that. But the biggest reason why we have such massive amounts of refugees and people coming to our country is because we keep destroying other people's countries. You know, let's start there. If we start there and the numbers don't go down, then we can do something more drastic. Hope you enjoy watching the video. And again, follow What in the World Weekly on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, and on Twitter as well. But the Twitter handle is a bit different. I think I'll put that in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I'll speak to you guys next time.